Well, hello, Sandy. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. I am 1 week into my habit tracking. I am good.
How's it going? How's the tracking?
Actually, it's become a really good, I really like it. It's become a habit because I keep doing it. So I'm going to keep doing my habit tracking. It's at first it seemed to be a pain and I use a simple Google sheet, but the two things that's helped me do is with work type things, because I'll get called on work and a lot of times I have to log my time. It's given me a system to quickly go back and find things that I might have missed. And it gives me a look at the day to see how I filled my time. Yeah, I've gotten good enough at it with my little acronyms that I can quickly look and say, oh, is this how I want to spend my day? So yeah, it's
Oh,
my
good.
habit tracking is becoming a good habit. How about that?
That's good. That's really good.
How about you?
The same. I'm just gonna say the same. It's just interesting to have this constant awareness about the things you're choosing to do and then digging into why you're choosing to do them. I think it's super interesting.
And I do think I've always thought that time when people say, what's your most important asset? And you can say, my kids, my money, my wealth, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it's always been time. And I remember saying when I was in public accounting, when everything was charged by the hour, if I had a customer, and this might sound kind of bitchy, but if I had a customer that said, that complained to me, didn't want to pay a bill that I had sent, and that was all my time, right? Time times rate. And I remember on more than one occasion saying, if I'm going to work for free, I'll be home with my kids. That's how I'm going to
Right.
spend my time. I'm not going to work for you for free to beg for my bill. And usually that conversation never happened again because they knew they weren't going to get it for free because
Right.
my time was more valuable to me than to be trying to make them happy.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And now I'd rather be playing with my mom. So
I, we love our kids, but
yes,
it is interesting how what we want to do with our time changes over the
right.
year. Like,
Not that I don't want to communicate with my kids. They don't want to play with me. They just want to banter on occasion and use their meal of the month cards.
right. So speaking of time, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. Um my father passed away when he was 60.
Mhm.
It was very suddenly. And so in my mind, that's a little bit of a marker for me. Like,
Right.
my time could be limited here. And, we never know
You never
what's
know.
going to happen. My mom is, thriving in her 70s. So I could follow those genetics. Who knows? But it is like a complete awareness of what am I doing with my time? And is this what I want to be doing if something were to happen right now? And habits kind of support that
Mhm.
mindset of, am I moving in the direction I want to move so that if suddenly I wasn't here, I would feel like, I did my best. I'm in a good spot.
There was a time and
That's a lot.
your picture could be right by the quote that I'm not going to say exactly, but it showed up on my time hop yesterday. And it's basically that too many people bet the farm on being able to have time in the future to do all the things that they're not finding time to do today.
Yeah.
And a big example that would be retirement. Like, I'm going to
Right.
do that once I retire. I'm going to do that once the kids are out of the house, right? So they're
Right.
betting for future time, and we don't know what the future is. And your self-awareness, incredibly sad that your dad passed away early, but you have this clock in your mind that you're never betting on future time, which is a gift to yourself.
Yeah. Well, or a burden. Because then it's a gift, but it's also a bit of a challenge because I'm always like, am I, is this good enough? And it is. It's just funny. It's just funny where your mind goes. So today we're continuing our conversation about habits. I'm loving this awareness and this thought process. And I'm just going to tell you, last week we were talking about how to make things obvious. And one of the things I shared with you was me sitting in the chair in the evening and how I was going to start sitting on the floor. That was something that was shared of, you can just do this little shift and it's going to be better for you. So I've gone all week and I have not sat on the floor. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's been interesting because this section we're going through right now is about making things attractive or, things you don't want to do unattractive. And what I realized when I started digging into why I haven't shifted to the floor was I have two dogs that shed,
Mhm.
and um, sitting on the floor means I'm going to have dog hair all over me. So it's very unattractive.
Right.
So I'm a little like, okay, so now what do I do? But anyway, that awareness is something that I've gone through this week. Have you had any awareness revelations this week?
My big thing was I had my first week of Beachbody with a trainer. And I think I had said I have my coach is Hazel from Ireland, which
Yeah.
I followed her. We've become friends through me commenting, and you gotta love social media. Don't even know how we connected, but hey, I've done a couple online classes with her, but I finally committed to Beachbody. But back to making it obvious, I think they do their whole program following Atomic Habits, because look at this. I've got my daily checklist. Check, check, check. Not a lot of items. They keep them very simple. I've got my tracker and nothing's overwhelming. And I keep them all together on my, let's do the 21 day. Boom, boom, boom. I've got all these little easy, right? Make it obvious. So that's an obvious. And then for me, and this is self-awareness, it is all about, I am a reward girl. Reward me, reward me, reward me. And I love a community. If I got sent this without Hazel in Ireland and her team, because we have our own little group that encourages each other on our app,
Uh-huh.
just having this would not do it for me. I'd do it, but waking up in the morning, because there's a 6-hour difference, and having notes because I logged my 20, I'm on day 5 of my 21, and having, Jillian
Nice.
and Bethany tell me great, and then getting a live video and getting called out that I did my thing. Oh my gosh, make it obvious. It's me watching a 2-minute video. You just wait. I'm gonna have a beach body in a month because of this stuff. And it's
Woo-hoo!
because it sits right here. And then
I
add
love it.
to it, I don't want to let Hazel down. And I like my community of encouragement. So I drink my water. I check my box. I eat well. I drink less. I work out every day. They're all obvious. We've talked about them for years, Amy. But I
Right.
have this and the community and the reward, and I'm all in, baby.
Right. Good for you. That's awesome.
It's fun.
That's good. I'm doing that same type of stuff with Noom and I'm loving it. But one of the things that happened yesterday on my Noom, like I got up, I weighed in and I went in to check in on my Noom and put my weight in. And then I was like, there's only one article to read and it was 2 minutes, which I'm like, that's weird. Usually I have about 15 minutes of reading.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so I clicked on it and I'm like, what's this? Only one. And I read it and it told me to take the day off. And I was a little bit like, all right, am I okay with taking a day off? Like it was really interesting. They're like, okay, you've been doing this for a while. Take a day off, see how it feels. So it was kind of like, let's go through a different type of feeling and see how you are not tracking your food for a day, not doing the
And how'd it
reading.
go?
Like, it was good. I will tell you, when I was eating dinner, usually I know where I'm at by dinner time. So I know like how to scale, what I'm eating or how much or whatever. And it was a little weird at dinner time. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna have to like trust myself and trust my intuition, which is what they want you to do, is trust your, like, learn to trust yourself.
It's a
And
habit of eating, of knowing when to stop, right?
right. And just trusting your intuition. So anyway, it was kind of a challenge. It was a challenge, but it was good. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about habits. One of the things they talk about is imitating our surroundings. So imitating the people that are close to us, the people, the many, and the powerful, which I thought that was interesting. And I had to like go through each of those. Do you remember this piece?
Yeah, give me your example though, if you've gone through it.
Well, imitating the close, we soak up the qualities and the practices of those close to us, the people we surround ourselves with. Imitating the many and their habits is more of um, it's kind of that thought process of that sway process, the mini, if everybody's doing this and it's a trend, maybe it's like a trend, then I'm going to imitate that habit. It must be good. Sometimes it's not good. So
Boy, I
that would be
totally
limited.
get that with, especially being an empty nester and having it be just Garrett and I, how if either one of us want to change a habit, and a good one would be drinking, having a drink every night, that we have to change that habit together. That if it's 6 o'clock, we're going to pour, to come up with something different and break that up. So it's not an every night thing, or eating dinner earlier, going to bed earlier. That really is me mimicking him and what our us is, because isn't it when you're mimicking, you're doing what somebody else is doing, but ultimately, because you're mimicking them, it's really an us thing, right?
Right.
Have you found anything with Tom as you change your eating habits with dinner and your self-awareness? Has he changed in any way, or is there any we are mimicking with that, with your eating routine at night?
No, he's along for the ride. So he's like, because I'm kind of the driver with the food in the house and stuff like that.
So he follows along, so he mimics you.
Yeah, he's mimicking me, which is nice and not complaining at all when we're
Right.
eating a bunch of vegetables. He's been a good sport. Um, I would say, yeah, good question. Because I was just thinking, I've been careful to provide them treats that I am not interested in,
Mhm.
because I do want them to feel like this is also their kitchen and their house. And so I'm providing some chocolates and things like that so that they can have snacky foods.
One thing that's funny that you bring that up, because I'm thinking about mimicking the other way. I really watch my carb intake, because I found that's helped me quite a bit. Foggy brain. I
Oh,
actually have a few, not food allergies, but tolerance type things with more of that type of a food, even though I love them. But what's interesting is there's no reason Garrett needs to with healthy. I'm talking like rice and potatoes. And so,
right.
like you, when I cook, I don't make anybody else, whether it be my stepson or my stepfather lived here, and especially Garrett, I would always make them the potato and carrots when it came into, and then I would either just not eat them, take a little bite. But what I
Right.
found, that's gone on for 2 years now, that I've never said a word. I don't stop making it for them, the healthy carbs. I just don't eat them very much. Garrett's asking for, I really don't need the potatoes, or he started to eat my cauliflowered rice. He started to eat my other things and is asking me why I keep getting the carbs, because he's mimicking me.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting? Even
that is
though
interesting.
it's kind of been an evolution of 2 years, but he made the comment last night. He's like, oh, you really don't need to, because I bought cauliflowered rice. He's like, I really like the cauliflowered rice, or double up on the broccoli. I don't need the potatoes. That's good with me. So
Oh, nice.
there
That's
you go.
good.
So I
Yeah.
should ask him why, if he feels better, or, if it's helped him with his weight more, because it helped me with my weight quite a bit. And
Yeah.
again, it's what works for you, right? It's
Right.
part of habits is finding things that work for you to make yourself your best person and you're real, right?
Right. Right. Right.
We can't
Yeah.
be ideal every day, but we can sure as heck try.
Yeah. True. Very true. I love that. I think habits, those around close to us, are really the drivers of our habits. I thought about at one point, um, I like yoga. I love yoga. I do not like the process of usually needing to do it in the evening. I'm not a big evening person, like exercise person. So it's always been like after my work day, am I going to go? And anyway, but one of the things I'm always contemplating is to make it more uh, like to get a job at a yoga studio. I was like, if I had a part-time job at a yoga studio and I had to be there, then I would already be there and it would be super easy to take a class. Isn't that silly? I mean,
Not silly. I like it. And it's thinking outside the box rather
I
than
know.
back to, and it's Amy, it's how you're wired. Because back to most people would say, I will do that someday when I am retired. I will do that someday, back to the someday, when my
Uh-huh.
kids are out of the house. I will do that someday when I'm not working on this big project at work and I have more time. I have more time. I like it that you think in the current, and then you're like, I'm being silly because maybe, about working. And it's like, no, you're thinking the way we all should be thinking about what can I do for enjoyment, or how can I break this up to do something I like, even though it might not seem like that's realistic.
Right. It seems really silly to me to actually get a job where I'm working every evening when I don't even like to leave the house in the evening well, sometimes, and not all the time, but it's just like, that sounds really silly. But if I were working, I would be there and I would be doing my yoga. So anyway.
I think it's silly now, Amy, to think back that for 20 years I got up and ran. I got up at 5:15 to run at 5:30 and would drive all over Omaha to meet my friends. Garrett would just die laughing right now and say, there ain't no way this girl, remember I just got done saying, I slept until 8:30 this morning. We're taping on a Saturday. I didn't set an alarm clock and I went to bed before 10. I like my sleep. That concept sounds silly to me right now, but that was my habit and that was my routine. And I loved it at the time and it worked for me.
And you had a close group of people.
My community. Would I have gotten up to go to Lifetime Fitness to work out if it was just me? Not 1 out of 10 times, but that group of ladies waiting for me, I was not going to let them down.
Right. And so that's part of this, is making the things that we want to do attractive, and how to, like you just mentioned, going to Lifetime was probably a 1 out of 10 times. And I think about that with my walk. I love walking outside in the neighborhoods and just the fresh air, the birds, the breeze, like I just enjoy walking outside. But for it to be attractive, the weather has to be good. So that's one of the things I've discovered, is it has to be attractive for me. So the weather has to be nice enough that I'm not outside being miserable with the wind blowing. Wind is a no. Like temperature, cold temperatures, no. And then going to the gym in the wintertime would be a no. That's not attractive to me. So anyway, because I don't get to that connection with the outside. So doing things like creating habits, making things attractive is sometimes a challenge too.
You can do the little things. When you talked about walking, so I walk my dog for an hour every day. That's an hour is a long time. And he's a big dog. He needs the walk. There's a reason he's lean and he gets his walk. How making it attractive for me, because it needs to be done. It just needs to be done. At a minimum, maybe I can walk him for 45 minutes. So the little tricks I do are I allow myself to time when I take him. Okay. So when is the wind going to be at its lowest? When's it going to be the best temperature? And so that actually, that little game of making it attractive, that I can pick what time is the best. And I tell you, the second thing is, at the end of the day, even if it's blowing, because we get all kinds of weather here in Colorado, it's attractive to me because at least I can listen to my audiobook, and the noise reduction is so good on my iPods that, wind can be whipping. I'll put that thing up, and for 1 hour, it's attractive to me because at least I'm looking, the dog needs to be walked. So it's a check the box, right? It has to happen. But the other thing is I get to listen to my audiobook for an hour. And so they don't seem that attractive, but I've just made the walk something. And I'm rarely in my car traveling, right? That is my audiobook time, is when I walk the dog. So if I don't do that, so I do look forward to listening to that.
That's awesome. I think that's in the summertime. It's funny because I listen to podcasts in the summertime, but a podcast, here's the thing, is you wrap it up at the end of your walk and you're done until the next podcast. Mm-hmm. But a book would be different because I would want to get back out there and keep listening to how the story unfolds. Because I'm just going to tell you, I did an audio book one time on a trip and I was by myself and I drove to St. Louis. I had 7 hours in the car. And I remember getting to St. Louis and wanting to keep driving
to finish it.
And then the worst part of it was the whole weekend I was thinking, can't wait to get back in the car to finish, like to hear how this book is.
Right.
I think that might work for me. I should start doing that.
Does, and it depends on the kind of books you're reading too, but I'm picky about I take a lot of time to research what I'm going to read and what I'm going to intake. I just don't pick something up. So typically I had somebody tell me once, boy, you're a high rater. I'm like, well, I only read highly rated books. So I don't just pick something up. So typically it's something pretty good. And I do like thrillers are tough because you just don't want to stop until you get to the end.
Right.
Or a good memoir, that's well written. And I love comedian memoirs. I just finished Amy Poehler's Yes, Please.
Oh yeah.
It was so good. It was so
good. That's good. That's good. All right. So one of the things that they also mentioned in this was temptation bundling. Do you ever do that? And this is if I do this, then I can do this.
I do that all the freaking time.
Does it work?
It depends on what it is.
I'm trying to think of what the example.
I do a lot with if you do the workout or I do a lot of that bundling when it relates to health. If I do all these healthy things, I'll let myself have this one little unhealthy thing at the end. I'm not a binge person. Like I'm not an emotional eater at all. I just like to have fun. And that's usually my problem is it seems like I like to treat myself a lot, but it's usually not emotionally driven. It's, oh, why would I not allow myself to do that? But never in a binge, So the temptation thing is a little bit of a reward, I think.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a reward. And it's funny because I've tried it. Like I am not going to, I will only do my reading, which I love to read, if I do 15 minutes of ab work.
And Amy, maybe in the book, what's the definition in the book? Do you have that handy?
I don't. I was trying to look it up.
And it's temptation. What was it called again? Temptation
bundling. And
that's a beautiful phrase.
I know. And I love it. Like, I think it's awesome. Oops, I just dropped my book. But what I would like, I just want to acknowledge that not everything works for everybody. Like we are all wired differently, and I can justify myself out of the bundle and say, I'm not doing my ab work today. I did something else. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read. You know what I mean?
Such a temptation bundler. I found so he said, temptation bundling works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Okay, Amy, how about this one? I do this to myself. I'm not allowed to watch a Netflix series or whatever, Amazon. If I start a series on my own, not with Garrett, I am only allowed to watch it when I'm working out at the gym. That is a rule. And I follow it to a T because I play mind games with myself and my two people, but he talked about here, and I use that as an example because he said in this case, he bundled Netflix, the thing he wanted to do, with riding his stationary bike, the thing he needed to do. I do that all the time. You can have a glass of wine tonight if only while you're making dinner, and then you're done. If you check everything off your list for your health checklist today, then you have earned that glass of wine. But that's really what
I love it.
And he called it eliminating obesity one Netflix binge at a time.
I know. I love it.
But why does that work for me? Who's my shrink? Why can I
don't know.
And who makes up this stuff? Like Garrett's like, where do you come up with these rules for yourself? And I'm like, well, it's a treat. Oh, I get to go. Do you want to go to the gym? Oh, I've worked out 3 times a day, but I'm going with you because, oh my gosh, they just dropped the new Handmaid's Tales and I want to watch it, or Stranger Things is out again. I can't tell you how many series my memory isn't staying up late at night. That never happens. My memory is sitting on a stationary bike for 2 hours because I can't get away. I want to see the next one in the series because they dropped the entire series. I've watched more series on a stationary bike.
And good for you. Good for you. like that you can be that willful and you're following your rules. Because I would just be like, all right, I'm gonna keep going. I'm on my way home and I'll watch it at home. Like I would just be done and I would keep watching it. Like I'm really relaxed with my rules. I'm just like,
Do you
it's not
think that
gonna work
helps?
out today.
That helps too, back to that mimicking. Garrett and I, we don't have a TV in our room, never have. We
Yeah.
don't watch anything from devices. Once we go to bed, which is usually 9:30, we
Yeah.
will watch together. So it's got to be something we're watching together. And he's not a binge watcher. In fact, it's too much. He's not a binge listener. If we listen to an audiobook together, it could go on for a month because let's talk first, let's listen to a little bit. So if he and I aren't watching it together on the screen during that like 1 hour time period, it's not going to get watched, but I don't have the opportunity is my point,
Yeah.
because that would be very disrespectful to him. Because I mean, he's, for his wife to be watching something, we just wouldn't do that. That's not
Right.
something
Yeah.
we would do. But I
Yeah.
do remember back in the day, and again, this isn't picking on my first husband, this is just saying how things change. Do
Yeah.
you remember that series? This was back in the day where they would do right when you wouldn't have to wait every week for the series. But then after the series closed, you could buy it in DVDs and have the whole stack. That's how I consumed The Sopranos after the fact.
Yeah.
And we bought 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. Do you remember that one?
Mhm.
And it did 1 real hour at a time. I remember we had a TV in the bedroom and we would put in the DVDs and you couldn't stop. It was like the first taste of binge watching. And it was 3 a.m. and we'd look at each other and say, should we watch another one? Because we
Yeah.
couldn't freaking stop. So again, we were feeding each other into that habit. And I didn't have my butt on my stationary bike watching something on a device.
Right. Right. Well, so that's good too, because there's opportunity to change. That's what I would say.
I'm
Like
not
we
sure
can
how that
make,
opportunity happened. It was just mimicking.
yeah,
And
it's
where did I come up with the rule? I found a way and a treat to watch something that didn't interfere with my lifestyle with the people I was by the most. And
right.
obviously I have more time. I didn't have time back in the day to spend an hour to 2 hours on a stationary bike watching that did not exist, right? 30 minutes was tops, or maybe a 5-mile run. And I would run faster because we all had to get our butts to work and home.
Right. 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 It was like a quick, like, I'm just checking this off my list, my to-do list. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how we all process habits and how we try to make things attractive and the things that we try to make unattractive. So I was thinking about my carpet having dog hair on it and me not sitting on the floor, which is such a little thing. Like, how do I make
It's
that more
real.
attractive?
It's obvious,
It's
right?
real, it's obvious, but it's unattractive because of the dog hair. And then I was like, well, if I vacuumed every day, which I'm not gonna do, like that's
Put down
crazy.
a blanket that doesn't have dog hair on it, but then you have to wash it every day,
Like
right?
then I would have a dirty blanket all the time. Yeah, there's some things I need to think through. I could probably put my yoga mat down. That's probably exactly
Oh,
what I
that's a
should
good
do.
one.
Yeah, because then it's always just, hey, that's probably what I'll do. I'll just put my yoga mat down there next to it. Hey, thank you.
Who needs a workbook, Amy? We got this figured out.
I just had to think through it. It's funny because today I was like, I'm not vacuuming every day.
So here's a little back to, for everybody to think about. Amy just worked through her little thing, and it might be a little bit our days and our lives and how we spend our time are not little.
Right.
And it's using these little tricks. One little one that I learned this week too is I'm always working on, I say I'm the memory curator right now. I'm going through Google Drives. I'm on a pattern for writing blogs on certain days. I'm helping my mom pull old family videos together. But what I've found is the reward that I love is when I get to the point of sharing it, posting it, sharing the story with everyone. Oh, that is my adrenaline. Sharing the video on our family website, sending out the email saying we got the new video put together. But I needed some organization around that because I'd find myself like 3 weeks later and it'd be like, oh, I haven't posted. I need to do this. I wasn't keeping up. So back to the simple Google sheet, I've got, basically a checklist that I'm at least looking and making sure that what I'm getting out there. So that's keeping me organized. to get the adrenaline and the reward of getting it done, but I need that little organizational structure to keep
Yeah.
me on track on what I'm working on. It's just a simple Google sheet, but at least I can look and say, oh, I need to get a family video up. So I'm going to prioritize that, or, hit the calendar, but it's just a quick, organized way that for me, little things like this, whether it's electronic, are not overwhelming and I can get them done. But it's
Right.
picking what I want to do on that list, right?
Right. Right. I love that. That's great, because then the process of figuring it out, you don't have to go through the process of figuring it out every time you start the project.
Right.
You've already figured it out on the Google sheet. You just go there and you're like, all right, this is my next one.
And what's good about an accountability partner is Garrett knows one of my core values is fun, right?
Uh,
Which is not his. Okay. Not bad. He enjoys fun, but it's definitely
Yeah.
not a core value.
Right.
And what he will ask me, and it's such a good question related to me, is he'll see me working on something and spending a lot of time, right? Or something becoming a habit, putting the videos together, getting the content out there. And he'll ask me the question, are you having fun? And if I say yes, he's like, okay, but that's his way. And if I say I'm not having fun, he'll start going down the chain of, how are you spending your time? Do you realize you're doing this every day? But he starts with, are you having fun? And if I light up and say yes, he thinks, okay, because I'm
All right.
observing what she's doing,
Yeah. Right. 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 And especially if you start getting frustrated. So say you are frustrated with this,
Can't
having
keep
to get
up.
a video, like having to do this every week, and you started, then that question is a really good question, because, okay, let's revisit and make sure you're still enjoying yourself, as
Right.
if this is
It gets back to that. We keep doing things just because we can doesn't mean we should, right?
right.
And so
Yeah.
finding whether it's you asking yourself, your spouse, your kids, is knowing them, what is that key question to ask to see
Yeah.
if what they're doing is meaningful, by going back to their value and meaning, right? And
Yeah.
saying, is it worth it for you? And for me is, are you having fun?
Right.
And I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Are you having
There
fun?
is nothing wrong with that. Good for you. All right. Well, Sandy, thank you for the conversation today. As always, I am enjoying Atomic Habits. If everybody, or if anybody wants to pick it up, Atomic Habits by James Clear, we're going to continue this conversation because there's obviously more to talk about. We can keep talking. Next time, we're talking about how to make it easy, how to make habits easy. And I'm just going to tell you, I told you this morning, this is my jam. Part
Yay.
3 is that's my thing. And I just was reading it and I made so many notes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could talk about part 3 for more than our half an hour.
Well, and you can coach me, because I'm going to come in. I can't wait to hear your jam, and I'm going to give you my, what's the word I want to say? I will bring in my weaknesses with that, and you can help coach me.
Okay, I'll give it a try. I love it. All right. Thanks, Sandy. Until next time.
Until next time.